Books lining the shelves at your local bookstore or elsewhere have lived in the imagination of an author who spills the story onto the page. Well, now throw in AI, and you've got a plot twist that makes some writers cringe and others embrace. In this episode of AI, the good, the bad, and the ugly, I sit down with Matt Goldman, a New York Times bestselling author. He's a playwright and also an Emmy Award-winning television writer whose credits include Seinfeld, Ellen, The New Adventures of Old Christine, just to name a few.
Yeah.
And Matt, by the way, is also has another book out. You're prolific in your writing books. The latest one is Dark Humor. There you see it right there. This is where the beloved private eye, Nils Shapiro, returns. And this is another kind of page, like a detective novel,
Yep.
and he's a beloved character, so people are so happy to see that
Very
character
happy,
back.
yeah.
So welcome to Life Unscripted, Matt.
Thanks for having me.
All right. It's just before we get into being an author and writing and AI, you have so many books, and
Yeah.
how many are you putting out a year by and large?
Well, usually it's one a year, but this year it's two. This book, Dark Humor, which comes out next month, it will be my second of the year. And next year I have three, which is a lot. So
It's crazy.
yeah,
I mean, that
it
is a
is.
lot of, I'm assuming this is something that you have to do, and you do it
Yeah,
nearly
no, I
daily?
just do it. I do it every day, and I don't know how to do anything else. And so that helps with productivity. And I think having a combination of a Midwestern work ethic and a TV writer's work ethic is a good combination for getting stuff done.
So detective novels, has that primarily been the books? I mean, there has definitely been a theme.
They're all in the crime fiction umbrella. The first four are a series featuring Nils Shapiro, who is a private detective. And so those are more traditional whodunits. The next four are standalones that are more family suspense books. There's not a private detective. It's a family, usually in a domestic situation, trying to figure out what happened or what's going on. But this is a reintroduction of Nils. So the fifth book in that series. What makes it different from the others, it's not a whodunit. We know whodunit, like on page one, and no one's been able to catch the person. So Nils goes after that person on his own.
All right.
It's more of a thriller than a mystery.
So
Yeah.
your process, and everybody is different in how they sit down, and some have a really specific outline. And I know writing books is different than you've written screenplays, though.
Yes.
Do you have, like, for instance, a different process from writing books than are you writing screenplays anymore, or any other way, or primarily just books right now?
Just books right now. The last show I was in production on was in 2017. The last show I was in the writer's room for was in 2020, and that's because I could Zoom in because of the pandemic. I didn't have to go there,
Yeah.
which was great. But even though a comedy writing room over Zoom is not a good thing, it's better in person. But yeah, and in television we had to outline because everyone had to know what was going on. I mean, there was a production crew waiting to get started, building sets and getting props and wardrobe, and people needed to know what was going on. And there was also an approval process, so that outline would go through 10, 15 drafts before everybody thought it was great. And the thing is, the reason I don't outline now is because we would go through this lengthy process to get the outline just so. And then the writer would go write a draft faithful to that outline, and it would stink almost every single time. I worked on almost 500 episodes of television, and it happened almost every time. And it's just because that part of your brain you use to make an outline is different than the part of the brain where real characters who feel like real people, who are three-dimensional, up on their feet and interacting, they don't behave the way an outline wants them to behave. So if you're ever watching a show or reading a book or watching a movie and a character says, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but it's because they're acting totally out of character because they were smashed into to fit the story in the outline.
Yeah, I have written some things along, over the years,
Yeah.
and the outline I had completely written the screenplay, and then I went back and read some books and realized, oh, I didn't write an outline. So then I tried to fit my story into that outline, and that was the beginning of when things got tricky for me.
Yeah. And listen, whatever anyone's process is, good for them. If they have blank pages in the beginning of the day and there's words on them at the end of the day, that's wonderful. But I have found it to be not helpful to outline.
It is that time of year when we want to be cozy, right? And here I am in my pajamas. I love my Cozy Earth pajamas. They are made of bamboo, which gets softer every time you wash them. Cozy Earth also offers sheets, bedding of any kind, socks, anything you want to be cozy in. Cozy Earth has it. So now is the time to buy also holiday pajama sets, men's, women's. Check them out. It's a holiday season. You get 41% off if you use my promo code Life Unscripted. Just go to my show notes and you'll find the link. Click on that and you get a deal. Let's get cozy. Back to the writer's room.
Yeah.
So you said you're kind of an introvert, but in navigating the personalities and being in a writer's room, what is that? What is that experience like? Because you did it for many years.
I did it for 30 years. Every room's a little different, and there's anywhere from the rooms I worked on were anywhere from 4 to 14 people in number. So they all take on their own personality. When they're great, it's like the best dinner party you've ever been to. It's fun. The conversation's flowing. People are supportive of one another. When it's bad, it's like the worst Thanksgiving dinner you've ever been to. It's like, oh, who invited that guy? Take the wine away from that person. It can get... I never worked in a mean writer's room. I've heard stories, but I think that the kind of executive producers who hired me based on my writing and my personality, weren't people who created destructive competitive atmospheres. And when I was in the position to hire, I did the same thing. I hired fairly, if not like-minded, temperamented people to myself. Because
you want to think about, how it feels to be in that room, I suppose.
Yeah.
And that it's not going to be, there's probably going to be some competitiveness, but you want it to be supportive kind of nurturing for the creative process.
And, back in the olden days when we used to do 24, 26 episodes a season, you needed everybody. You needed everybody to feel motivated to contribute because everybody has a bad day, a quiet day in that room, and then you need other people to step up. And if it's not an encouraging atmosphere, if the showrunner, the person who's in charge, isn't steering the ship in a way that says, oh, that's a great idea, but unfortunately we can't do it because of this, but I like the way you're thinking. You want to encourage everyone. It's like you're out to sea in a submarine together. You're under the water. You're not coming up for a while. You better all get along.
Seinfeld. So you knew Jerry Seinfeld before the show started. So you started at the very beginning. And that's kind of how that relationship grew and how you ended up on the show?
Yeah, I knew Jerry because when I was a stand-up comedian in Minneapolis, I opened for him. That's how I met him, before the show was on the air. So he was far from a household name then. He had done The Tonight Show several times. He was known in the stand-up world. We did 10 shows in 1 week at a club that was called the Comedy Gallery downtown Minneapolis. It's not there anymore. And Jerry and I became friends after that. When I moved out there, we continued to be friends.
As in New York City?
No, everyone thinks that. L.A. Seinfeld, which fictitiously takes place in New York, shot in L.A.
Hang on, I need a moment.
I know.
I need to take that in for a minute.
They would go shoot.
Okay, I understand, but...
Friends shot in L.A., New York show.
Yeah, I guess that's where a lot of these shows are shot. So, okay, but you did obviously a great job in creating the idea that you were in New York City.
Yes,
so.
And there were some actual establishing shots taken in New York City, the diner, things like that. But it was all shot in L.A.
Those characters. I was a huge
best.
Seinfeld, I just love Seinfeld. It's been a while, but of course I watched them over and over and over and over for years. And once in a while when I needed to pick me up, I'd throw on Seinfeld. Have you ever gotten up from a great night's sleep, but then you look over at your pillowcase and you're like, ew, what's on there? Well, I have the perfect solution and a great gift for the holidays. They're called Copper North pillowcases. And what makes these unique is these are copper-infused silk pillowcases, which means they're antibacterial. They'll keep your pillowcase cleaner. Also, your skin will be glowing more and your hair less frizzy, less breakouts. They're great gift ideas. And this is what's perfect. They're also machine washable. So I've arranged a 15% discount for my listeners. Just use the promo code LifeUnscripted. You can find it in my show notes. Click on that link and you will see the Copper North pillowcases. But again, you still have time. Now that you understand a little bit about your writing process and what it's like to work in television, entering AI into this whole process, I don't know what you hear out there as a writer, but are you aware that there are a lot of people using artificial intelligence for their writing process?
Well, I'm not so aware of that. I don't know what part they're using it for. I know people who are writers who are using it for their marketing, and I know writers who are. I have a friend just the other day. I saw her. She's a writer who's between agents, and so she was on AI describing the kind of book she wrote and like who might be a good agent to represent this, which I think is a perfectly nice use of it. There's a lot of almost militant-like resistance to anyone using AI. It's like that Seinfeld episode when the little person is going to use lifts because the kid that he's a double for on the show, like he's the stand-in. The kid is growing, like on a sitcom.
Okay.
And it's Kramer's friend. I can't remember the character's name. Little person.
Oh my God, you're like picking the only one I can't think of at the top of my head.
Yeah, and he was going to use lifts, which is a big no-no. But I will tell you that the writers. Not the Writers Guild, the Mystery Writers of America in their Edgar Award presentation use AI for something. And the other writers, the writers, us, were so upset about it. They had to backpedal like crazy. But I'm sure people are using it. I know friends, and William Kent Kruger, a well-known local author, and known nationally well-known, but based here, he messed around with it and said, write me a William Kent Kruger story, and he said it did a pretty good job. He didn't use it, of course. Right. He just wanted to see what it would do. But it's one of those things that it's like an ocean tide. There's nothing you can do to stop it. So it'll just whatever will happen will happen. It was one of the big factors that the writers in the Writers Guild and the actors in SAG struck over, though.
Right, because 2 years ago.
Yeah.
That was, and do you feel like that process, that there was some headway made as far as protections against AI? We know there were some things that they, said they would acquiesce a little to.
There was some progress made for the 3-year contract. They're always 3-year contracts, and we'll see what happens at the end of it. I don't think there's much appetite for another strike, at least this is just me guessing, but when I talk to my friends back there, things are quite bad. There's not a lot being made right now. People have been unemployed for a long time. I don't know exactly why that is, if they stockpiled because of this strike, if they just have so much material right now, because when all these streamers came into business, they just started making stuff. And some very good stuff, but maybe it didn't do that well. And that's another thing. Like the shows I watch is not necessarily what America watches. So, yeah.
Some, the argument, at least the newspaper articles that I'm reading, in somehow in defense of using artificial intelligence, it's the idea that using it is a way to do things that you don't like to do, whether it's technical, and that it might save you time to do more creative things, that could free you up to do more creative things. I don't, it's hard for me to imagine. I can't imagine you could actually write a character from AI. It would not be from a person. You have to
I don't
have
think
your own
it's there
experience.
yet from what I've read and what I've heard from first people accounts, that it's not at that place where it's doing that very well yet. And, it feeds on all of our work. And
you're right. It is taking all that
there's
information.
There's been some big lawsuits and successful lawsuits against them doing that without writers' permission on copyrighted material. But at some point, it's going to start feeding on itself because the more it generates, the more that's going to be out there for it to recycle. And if it was wrong the first time, it's going to be even more wrong the second time through. So I personally don't use it in my creative process because I write because I love to write. I don't want a machine to do it for me. But I do know there's a lot of people who are out there looking for shortcuts. Writing's a butt in a chair job. It's not always exciting. It takes a lot of hours. You never know what's going to happen with the work. It's not like you're making gold bars and when you're done, you know what it's going to be worth. Nobody may want it when you're done. So you better enjoy it for the sake of doing it and hope something good happens with it.
The holidays and delicious cookies, they go hand in hand, especially as gifts. If you're not into baking, Molly Bees loves to bake. Molly's a single mom in Alaska whose cookies have been featured on the Food Network, Martha Stewart Living, and the Grammy Awards in those little goodie bags. I'm obsessed. Small batches of goodness. Check out these flavors. Dubai chocolate brownie, chocolate cherry amaretto, and lavender lemon white chocolate. Here's another one. Maple syrup, crispy bacon, whiskey, and white chocolate chips. You heard that right. Bacon and whiskey in a cookie. Boba doodles. It's just fun to say. I'll have a bag of boba doodles. Little mini snickerdoodles with a melt-in-your-mouth experience. Great gift ideas. You can find them at mollybz.com. That's mollybz.com. And for my listeners, use my promo code LifeUnscripted to get 10% off. And you can find the link in my show notes. Perhaps some parts of writing when it comes to maybe doing some research on a topic that you may not know about.
Yeah.
Like if you wanted to, I don't know, learn something about whether it's the language of being a PI. You've written so many books now, you know all of it. Or when people are writing about medical issues, that all the terminology might be useful.
I Google, I have to Google things all the time to look them up. Like the other day, this doesn't give anything away because I ended up not using it, but I Googled like if a suspect is holding someone hostage and you tase that suspect, will the person being held hostage get shocked? So I looked that up, and the beginning of Google now is an AI answer.
Yes.
And so I don't say, there it is, that's my answer. That's a starting point. Like, let me check other sources. Let me look at the sources they cite and see if this is accurate. But we've always had AI as long as there have been word processors, and to some degree, whether it's spell check, grammar check, word usage, that's a form of it. But generative AI, which is what we're talking about, who knows? Who knows what that's going to do or where it's going to go? And I think writers can often feel picked on and isolated and especially not appreciated, but it's going to affect everyone in society. So whether that AI is to write computer code or it's inside of a robot that's going to clean your floors, everyone's going to get affected about it. So we're all kind of in it together.
We are.
Yeah.
And when it becomes so good and it's hard to tell the difference where it's coming from, that is, there's going to be so much out there.
Right.
It's going to be just feeding on itself.
Yeah.
When you first heard of artificial intelligence and the more we know, because it's changing so rapidly, where did your brain go to from a writer's perspective? Are you Are you nervous about it as far as the way the future looks for writers?
I'm not nervous about it, but I'm 63 years old. And who knows, maybe every generation since the beginning of time, when people get to be a certain age, they're like, oh, the world's going to heck. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad I'm on the latter part of my life. It probably won't affect me just because I'm a somewhat known writer now. But for young writers, I don't know. I don't know. They're going to grow up in a different world than I grew up in.
And, already with blockbuster movies and those things that are just kind of, they're going to continue to make money.
Yeah. I do know a couple things. One is that the kids, there's a strong pull back toward analog now.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
Whether it's vinyl records or film cameras, there is a pushback against this big digital thing. That's encouraging to me. And the other thing is that whenever a new technology has been introduced, people act like the sky is falling. And maybe it will. But I remember when camcorders first came out, and that's when I was a young writer. When they'd always been out, but where almost anyone could go get one and have one. And there was this big fear, like, oh, now everyone's going to make movies. And it won't be a special thing for talented people anymore. And of course, that wasn't true at all. And I know that when the Gutenberg press got invented, everyone thought, like, oh, now anybody can just put out a book. It's not going to be special at all. And it goes way back to when just the alphabet was invented and people were worried that, oh, our sacred storytellers now aren't going to be as valued because anyone's going to be able to record a story. And I'm sure that there was some loss at each one of those technological jumps, but it also just enabled people to go do good work.
You're such an optimist.
What else am I going to do? I just don't know what the alternative is.
I mean, because I'm thinking the more I read about AI and learn about AI, that eventually that we'll be working for the robots instead of working. Or that. I mean, that is a concern.
We'll each get a stipend for what? I don't know.
Just existing on the world.
We'll drive around and and nice days we'll be outside, and bad days we won't be.
We'll go back to like the olden days.
We'll go back to the olden
old
days.
Schooling. It's going outside in nature and
if they can build a robot that can clean a shower, I will not be complaining.
You know what? If I can find an AI robot to do my laundry, I would be fine with that.
That's most likely going to happen soon.
Yeah. Well, I'm in.
They already have laundry folding machines. I don't even know how I know that, but they do.
Wow. I want that.
Yeah, me too.
Well, it was a pleasure having you here talking
thank
AI.
You for having me.
I think it's something on the minds of people who are in the business of creativity.
Yeah.
And we know that AI is creeping in. And I like to kind of tap into writers and authors and people who, their lives are based on being creative and how they feel about this new technology.
Yeah, well, it's like a one day at a time. We'll see what happens kind of thing, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks for having me, Alix.
Thanks so much for subscribing to Life Unscripted. Remember, when you purchase any item from my deals page, I get paid and you support my podcast. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.